She loved him more than she loved herself. And for a long time, she believed he loved her the same way. But life has a way of hiding the truth behind a beautiful smile. And on the night that truth finally surfaced, it didn't just break her heart. It changed her forever. Her name was Elena.
24. Bright. Soft-spoken.
A girl who carried hope the way people carry scars. She grew up in a small town, raised by a mother who taught her that love was the one thing worth fighting for. And she believed it, deeply. That belief is what led her to Adrian Hayes. A man from a world far beyond her own. He came from influence, money, and comfort. She came from hard work, late nights, and dreams that barely survived each month's rent. But when they met at the university library, it felt like time paused for a few seconds, just long enough to change the direction of two lives. At first, Adrian didn't even notice her. She was the quiet girl in the corner, hair tied back, books stacked around her like a protective wall. But one evening, when the library's old lights flickered, he looked up and saw her sketching alone. He didn't know why, but something about her felt familiar, almost haunting. Elena wasn't used to people noticing her, especially someone like him. But Adrian approached her with a warm smile, and from that night on, something subtle and delicate began forming between them. He admired her honesty. She admired his confidence. He loved her simplicity. She loved how he made her feel visible for the first time in years. Soon they were inseparable. Late-night coffees, long walks, laughter that felt like it belonged to someone else's life. Elena opened her world to him, her fears, her dreams, her scars. And Adrian promised he would never hurt her. For the first time ever, Elena allowed herself to believe in something beautiful. But even in those warm moments, there were signs. Small shadows that slipped through the cracks. Moments when Adrian's phone would buzz and he'd turn it face down. Times when he avoided answering her questions. Evenings when he seemed distracted, like his heart was somewhere she didn't know. Elena felt something changing, but she convinced herself that love required patience. That trust meant giving someone space to breathe. She told herself he was just stressed, overwhelmed, tired. But then came the night that should have been perfect. A night Elena had planned for weeks, his birthday. She saved every dollar, every cent, to buy him a gift that meant something real. A painting she created herself, of the moment they first met. She waited for him at his favorite rooftop cafe. City lights glowing.
Wind soft.
Her heart beating fast with excitement. But Adrian didn't show. Minutes turned into hours. The food turned cold. Her hands began shaking the way they did whenever something inside her whispered that something was wrong.
She called him. Once. Twice. 10 times. No answer.
And somewhere between hope and fear, a quiet, painful thought slipped into her mind. What if the love she gave him so completely wasn't the love he was giving back? Her breath grew heavy. Her eyes began to sting. And something inside her, something fragile, started to break. She didn't know it yet. But this night would lead her to a truth she never imagined. A truth that would not only shatter her heart. It would force her to walk away from the man she once believed was her forever. Elena sat alone on the rooftop cafe, the untouched cake flickering under the dim city lights. Each candle slowly melted. The same way her hope was melting inside her chest. She kept checking her phone, praying for a single message, a single sign that he cared enough to explain. But nothing came. Just silence. A silence loud enough to drown her heartbeat. Finally, with shaking hands, she picked up the gift she had made, the painting of the moment they first met. She held it close, almost like she was holding her own heart. Then she wiped her eyes, stood up, and walked toward the elevator with a question she wasn't ready to face.
Why didn't he come?
Down in the street, the night felt colder than usual. The city moved around her in fast, noisy waves, but she felt frozen, trapped between love and fear. As she walked home, she kept replaying everything in her mind. His sudden disappearances. His late-night calls he refused to explain. The distance in his eyes whenever he thought she wasn't watching. She told herself she was overthinking. But deep down, she knew she wasn't. By the time she reached her apartment door, something inside her whispered, "Check his social media."
Elena hesitated.
But then she opened his profile. And her entire world stopped. There he was. Adrian Hayes. Smiling, at a beautiful, luxurious birthday party filled with people from his world, his real world. Not the quiet, simple world he shared with her. The cake. The lights. The decorations. The celebration she wasn't a part of. But that wasn't the worst part. Standing beside him, holding his arm as if she belonged there, was a woman Elena had never seen before. Confident. Elegant. Dressed in a way Elena could never afford. The caption under the photo read, celebrating with the people who matter the most. Elena felt something collapse inside her. A deep, painful collapse that reached the parts of her she kept hidden even from herself.
She couldn't breathe. Her hands trembled.
The painting slipped from her fingers and landed softly on the floor.
She stepped back. Then again. And again.
It felt like everything around her was disappearing. Her hope, her trust, her future with him. But still, a tiny part of her needed the truth. She wasn't the kind of girl who walked away without asking why.
Not yet.
Not until she heard it from him. She sent him a message.
Just 3 words.
Where were you? Seconds passed.
Then minutes.
Then finally, her phone buzzed.
Adrian, I'm sorry.
I'll come over.
He arrived 20 minutes later, smelling of expensive cologne, wearing the same suit from the party.
He didn't look guilty.
He didn't look nervous.
He looked annoyed.
As if she had interrupted something important. Elena opened the door slowly. Her eyes were red.
Her voice soft. You weren't with me tonight.
Adrian sighed and looked away.
I told you, Elena.
My life is complicated.
You wouldn't understand. She swallowed hard. Then help me understand.
He rubbed his forehead, frustrated.
I had a family event. That's all.
Why are you making this into something dramatic?
Elena's voice broke.
I saw the posts, Adrian.
He froze. Just for a second.
Just long enough for her to see the truth in his eyes. She asked quietly.
Who is she?
Adrian looked away again, jaw tight, silence stretching between them like a wall she could no longer climb.
Elena felt her chest tighten. Tell me the truth, please.
Finally, he whispered. She's someone my family wants me to be with.
Her lips trembled. Are you with her?
Adrian didn't answer. And sometimes silence is worse than a lie. Elena stepped back, every emotion flooding her at once. Heartbreak, betrayal, disbelief. You promised me you loved me.
His voice was cold.
I never promised you forever, Elena. You assumed that.
A tear slid down her cheek. So, what was I to you?
Adrian shrugged.
You were, comfort.
A break from my world. Those words pierced deeper than anything she had imagined.
For a moment, Elena couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't even cry.
Her love, pure, loyal, selfless, was nothing more than convenience to him. And as she stood there, staring at the man she once believed was her destiny, a new kind of pain rose inside her. A pain that slowly transformed into something stronger. Something she never expected.
A beginning.
Because heartbreak doesn't just destroy people. Sometimes, it awakens them. Elena stood in front of Adrian, her heart breaking in slow, painful waves. She had loved him with everything she had. And to him, she was nothing more than a temporary escape. But something changed in her eyes that night.
A quiet strength. A strength born from pain.
She wiped her tears and spoke gently. Thank you for telling me who you really are.
Adrian frowned. Elena, don't be dramatic. We can still. She stepped back. No. We can't.
Because love isn't something you give when you're bored, and take back when someone better arrives. He tried to speak again, but she shook her head. I may not come from your world, but my worth isn't measured by money, clothes, or status. I gave you a pure heart. You gave me a lesson. For the first time, Adrian had no words. Because the girl he thought was weak, was standing stronger than he had ever seen her. Elena slowly closed the door. Not with anger.
Not with revenge. But with acceptance.
And when the lock clicked, it felt like she had closed the last chapter of a story that had drained her for too long. She sank to the floor, crying softly. Not because she wanted him back. But because letting go of the version of him she loved was the hardest part. Days turned into weeks. The pain didn't disappear overnight. But something inside her began to grow. She started painting again. Not for him. For herself. Her art, once quiet and soft, became bold, emotional, breathtaking. And one evening, a local gallery owner spotted her work online and reached out. Your art tells a story people need to feel. Would you like to display your collection in our gallery? Elena stared at the message, stunned. Her hands trembled, but this time, it wasn't fear. It was hope. The night of her first exhibition, the room filled with strangers admiring her paintings. Paintings born from heartbreak, courage, and rebirth. One painting stood at the center. The moment she first met Adrian in the library. Except this time, she painted her own reflection differently. Not as the quiet girl who hid behind books. But as a woman who discovered her strength the moment she walked away from someone who didn't value her. As people gathered around the painting, whispering praise, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in months.
Freedom. Healing.
Pride.
In the crowd, she saw a familiar face. Adrian. He walked toward her slowly, wearing the same expression she once wore, hope mixed with fear.
Your work is incredible, he whispered.
I didn't know you had this in you.
Elena smiled softly.
You never cared enough to look.
He swallowed hard. I miss you, Elena.
I made a mistake. But Elena looked at him calmly, with eyes no longer searching for answers.
No. Adrian. You made a choice. And so did I.
She turned slightly, her voice gentle but sure. I'm not the girl you left behind. And I'm not someone you get to come back to when your world gets lonely.
His face fell.
For the first time, he felt what she had once felt, being on the outside of someone's life. Elena stepped away. Not out of anger. But because healing had already rewritten her story. She walked toward her paintings, toward her future. The future she built from pain, courage, and self-respect. A friend from the gallery asked her,
Are you okay?
Elena smiled, the soft, proud smile of someone who survived something that almost broke her.
I'm more than okay.
I finally chose myself. The crowd applauded around her as she stood there, surrounded by the life she created from the ruins of a love that was never meant to last.
And for the first time, her heart felt light.
She didn't need Adrian's love. She needed her own. She had found it. And she wasn't letting it go ever again. A soft voice echoed in her mind, her mother's words. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink, it helps you grow. And Elena finally understood. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments what part felt the most real to you. Sometimes losing someone you loved deeply is the moment you finally find yourself. And if you believe in choosing yourself, hit like, share this story with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories like this one.